Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. Hopefully you're in the right place. This is Building Trust and Value, our mission-driven cloud journey. A little bit of the agenda for today. So first, I'm going to go through some introductions as to who we are. We'll go through what is Kion, so if you've never heard of that, obviously by the desk here, we can assume that that's my part. University of Oregon story, and then we did specifically leave time for open discussion. We want this to be collaborative. We want to hear successes, failures, challenges, whatever in sort of the cloud journey a bit. So I'm super excited to be joined today by Christy Long. Christy is the Associate CIO for Technology Infrastructure and the Chief of Staff at University of Oregon. And more importantly to me, she's a happy Kion customer, which is always exciting to see. For myself, Randy Shore here, I run our delivery and support team here at Kion. And so my role is really to ensure that folks are successful with our platform, that everything from first time you see it all the way through implementation, onboarding, training, support, that ultimately we're turning customers into fans and hopefully ones that will speak with us at conferences like this. So super excited to be here today. Before I was at Kion, I spent about a decade in higher education. George Washington University in DC, where I know some folks in the room currently are at or have been. And I was the Director of IT for the College of Arts and Sciences. So College of Arts and Sciences is the largest college at GW. Ultimately, I was responsible for the IT of about 10,000 faculty, staff, and students combined. And specifically, when it relates to this, my exposure to cloud really started in about 2017 or so. I used the cloud as someone else's data center. It's where I put essentially my research DMZ stuff. I had some workloads where I know our psychology department, we had this thing called Cyberball. It was like a PHP custom app, and I was like, I'm not putting that in my data center. I'm not putting that next to my stuff. And that's what I used cloud for initially. But in 2019 is where I had a particularly interesting use case with our data sciences program, which coincidentally is actually what we're going to talk about today as well, where we at GW had just stood up a data science master's program and needed to give students access to a cluster, right? Give them access to these real tools that they're going to be using when they get out in the field. And so ultimately I had three choices, right? I could put these students on Colonial One, which was our on-prem high-performance computing cluster. Problem with that is that I had to tell faculty, hey, you all paid for this, but I need these jobs to run now. During class time, students need real-time results, and so I'm going to have to delay, your jobs, right? And so that was sort of off the table. My other option was to go out and buy, Dell hardware or whatever, put it in my data center and kind of build them a cluster. But the data science program was brand new for us, right? We didn't even know if we were going to keep offering this. Do we want the maintenance of that? Do we want to commit to it? And so the third option was cloud, right? Everybody was talking about it. We had some exposure to it. And that's ultimately what we ended up choosing. But one of the challenges, as I'm sure many of you have faced in here, is it's a bit scary, right, to give a student a cloud account, right? Give them access to AWS, Azure, Google, whatever it might be, and know and sleep, at night knowing that nothing's going to go wrong and you're not going to be on the line for that. And so transitioning a little bit into what Kion does and how we can help solve some of those problems. So if you're not familiar with Kion, Kion is a software platform specifically designed to bring compliance, identity, financial management, and automation into a single platform. We work across all three major CSPs, so Azure, AWS, and Google. And from an experience perspective, it's really designed to give your users, whether they're students, staff, faculty, whatever they may be, right, your IT group, native access to the cloud providers, but be able to actually govern and control what they do. And so obviously this has a lot of applicability to what we're doing, but also we've worked, since transitioning over to Kion now, we've been fortunate to work with a lot of higher ed institutions, thanks to being partners with Internet2 and being on the Net Plus services contract there as well. So when it comes to cloud challenges in higher education, ultimately, we break that down into three areas that I'm sure many of you are responsible for today. So first is sort of the administrative side of cloud computing, right? It's the running the IT for the organization. Typically, your central IT group is doing that. You have a lot of challenges in that, like you've got sysadmins, right, that come in or leave, and you need to be able to easily provision or deprovision access across a bunch of accounts, a bunch of resources. You probably have some sort of compliance requirements. You want to make sure that what you're putting out there and what you're running for the university is safe and secure. And then obviously you need to figure out, who's going to pay for it and all that fun stuff. On the research side, which I know a lot of the conversations that we have, that's a whole other bag of worms, right? Every research program, you've got tons of users. You've got GTAs, PIs coming in and out of labs, right, that need access to different things. All the different grants that are out there, you get a grant from NIH, you might have to be HIPAA compliant. You get a grant from DARPA, you might need to be CMMC compliant or something like that. Every sort of researcher comes with their own set of challenges and things you need to figure out. Obviously, from a financial perspective, it's also really important to align your cloud spending back to the research grants. But more importantly, what happens when that research grant expires or you use more of that, right? And so different budgets, different, whether it's the department paying for it or the school paying for it or whatever. And as we all know, right, the barrier to give researchers what they want has to be as close to like a self-service consumer-like experience as possible. Or you'll get researchers, using their P card and setting up their own account, and now you've lost all access and control. So that's a really big area of focus for us. But what I'm really excited to talk about today with Christy is the academic side. This is the side that, using cloud in the classroom, we today see as sort of the rarest use case, and rightfully so. It's when you give somebody a cloud account, you've essentially given them a key to the data center and said, behave, right? It's tied to my P card, my university card, I need you to behave. And so it has to be heavily guardrailed. They have to have access to what they need to do. And more importantly, again, it has to be that native experience. You don't want students going to university learning how to use a specific tool that they're not going to find out in the workforce. You want them to actually learn, the cloud environments themselves. And so across this, there are 3 common challenges: high user turnover, whether that's faculty turning over, semester by semester, that's staff coming in and out, whatever that may be, students, obviously. You have all different types of funding models. Some of these are internal departmental budgets, some of them are school budgets, some of them are research grants, etc. And there's all different data retention, classification needs, security and compliance requirements. And so the goal of Kion and why we're here and what we do, right, is really to provide secure and repeatable cloud operations aligned to budget that allows people to safely use the cloud. So with that, let me turn it over to Christy to talk about how Oregon specifically is doing that with their data science program. So thanks.
Thanks, Randy. So the University of Oregon is a public research university located in Eugene, Oregon. We have 23,000 students, and we are the epicenter for track and field in the United States. The picture on your right is our Ignite campus for accelerating scientific impact. In 2016, the University of Oregon received a generous gift of $500 million from Phil and Penny Knight to establish an interdisciplinary applied science campus that aims to accelerate scientific discoveries into innovation that improve the quality of life for people in Oregon, the nation, and the world. Since then, we're a university in transition, from a strong liberal arts history to a data sciences future. That next year, the university launched the Presidential Initiative in Data Science to enhance existing educational and research efforts across data science, to develop novel areas of undergraduate and graduate education, and expand new avenues of research. And this past spring, we announced a new School of Computer and Data Science. The need to support a growing portfolio of new research and academic programs influenced our approach to our cloud journey. Our areas of focus are accelerating research, and what that means for us is solving for cross-institutional collaboration, the need to manage, analyze, and share increasingly large data sets, and facilitating security and compliance, NIST, PHI, CMMC. Additionally, enabling teaching and learning is also another key area of our focus. Providing students with access to the latest technologies, providing students with relevant skills and experiences so that they're career ready and highly marketable. And with all of this in mind, we chose Kion for multi-cloud management, facilitating secure, repeatable cloud operations and budget visibility, and doing all of this in a single pane of glass. So I'll share our journey of how we enable teaching and learning by partnering with data science faculty at the University of Oregon. It really started simply. I have standing meetings with a well-connected faculty member, and when we meet, we typically talk about research computing. One day, I asked about the academic technology needs to support data science. And I was curious really what technologies are we using, and really at what point might students need to have access to our high-performance computing cluster. He shared a few names of our computer science faculty who were teaching introductory data science classes and suggested that I reach out. So our team reached out and quickly learned of their difficulties. These are entry-level classes, students bring their own laptops, and even with step-by-step instructions, faculty were spending a significant amount of time working on individual student laptops in order to get those environments working before they could even start class. So this revealed an opportunity, and in the words of one of our faculty, we need a ready-built environment for introductory students to bypass a large initial barrier to beginner programmers so that we can open our classes to individuals otherwise underrepresented in the field. By providing computing resources to every student, we can ensure anyone can take the class irrespective of their means or background experience. So when you think about a chemistry lab, we don't expect students to go and buy their own chemicals, beakers, or pipettes. We provide them. So in defining success, what this looked like was that students could start working day one of class, and we would create an environment that would be consistent across our 100 and 200 level courses, foundational data science courses. And the idea behind that was we don't want students each term to have to learn a new environment. Let them focus on the curriculum and understanding those concepts. Since this was our first cloud-native academic workload, we worked closely with the data science faculty to co-create a solution for these courses. We built trust through our approach and piloted over 3 quarters, and that was with approximately 230 students. Our approach was to build, measure, learn, and enhance through that time. And given the requirements, we ended up choosing a technical solution of Jupyter Hub Notebook environment and Azure Kubernetes. 3 significant challenges that we faced from the outset. So first of all, there were a lot of unknowns. As you can imagine, like I mentioned, this was our first academic workload. And so we didn't really know what student use was going to be like, and also student behavior. So thinking about how do we think about a class plus a lab, and then on top of that, how much time are students actually going to spend on homework? When is that going to occur? Right before something is due? When do we expect to see that usage? Through this process, we decided on 1 core per student, and our teams experimented with sizes of VMs that back the cluster in order to balance cost and performance. We sized the VMs based on the Goldilocks method. Right? We didn't want to create them too large so that we have these excess cycles and we're leaving money on the table, and not too small in that we would have these increased number of scaling events resulting from students trying to log in and causing delays at the start of class. So in our case, 2 32-core VMs proved to be just right in that 1 VM baseline could handle homework needs, and then during class and labs we could, generally based on our class size, have 2 scaling events, which worked for us. The second area was the need to meet specific budget targets. So data science used departmental funds for this pilot. The intention, though, all along was that they were hoping to charge a small course fee to pay for this. So course fee, instead of buying a textbook, you pay a course fee and you would get an environment. So data science prescribed our budget, and ideally they wanted the cost per student to be at $20, but they did say it could be a maximum of $50. Let's be clear, They didn't want 50. They wanted 20. So from the start, we acknowledged that we didn't know what the cost was going to be per student, but we did decide to share that financial risk. And so by IT providing a financial safety net, if you will, and to cover those overages, that gave faculty the confidence to take the leap to the cloud. The third challenge that we faced too was that we have limited staff. This seemed like a really great opportunity, really great pilot, and we could learn a lot. We also knew that there was a high probability that we would see future requests for delivering similar courses. So our hesitancy though was, we haven't done this before, and there will be pressure potentially that they will want a dedicated staff person to do all the things, be available all the time, and provide that level of support. So that was our hesitancy. Through this process in working with faculty, one of the principles that we decided on was to automate everything, and that was our goal, to lower support costs. And then throughout this process in working with them, we built relationships, we built trust, and faculty agreed to be the primary support for anything that came up with students. And then if they couldn't resolve that issue, then they would escalate to IT. And this model worked really well for us. We were able to achieve success with Kion, and we've really just scratched the surface. There's a whole lot more value that we can unpack with our partnership with Kion. The first areas of success for us were the strong partnership and co-creation with faculty. We understood data science's needs and customized the environment for them. And what that looks like was everything from single sign-on to class roster loads, to a mechanism to handle late ads, and also a way to distribute course materials. We learned together throughout the process, and we did retrospectives at the end of each term. And that helped us refine and make changes and make sure that we're meeting the needs, not just short-term, but also long-term. And the other key piece was Kion's single pane of glass really made it easy for us to evaluate solutions on multiple clouds. So one example that we ran into was we were noticing block storage delays, and Kion enabled us to test our environment in another cloud so that we could actually do sort of an apples-to-apples comparison and really understand and compare what the costs of both of those solutions would be. The second key to success is that Kion empowered faculty to take ownership and not be heavily reliant on IT. So through this process and working together, faculty gained a technical understanding of the cluster and the design, because we co-created this together. They now know how to map costs to things that they actually understand, things like size of class, number of concurrent users, and also the technical resources that are needed. Kion provided budget visibility, and through this process we could easily see patterns in terms of days, weeks, and months, what that use looked like. And it allowed us to do budget projections and alerting on budget targets. So Kion has really helped us empower faculty by giving them the tools to see, manage, and most importantly, own their cloud cost spend, and not be totally reliant on IT. The third success that we achieved is that we are poised for future growth. The Jupyter Hub environment is the backbone of data science's largest classes at our university. And data science continues to add hundreds of new declared majors. So going forward, data science's continued growth and ambitions are going to take us into multiple cloud providers and to deliver courses for this major. Students in higher level classes will gain experience in the latest technologies like Azure Data Studio, AWS SageMaker, and Google Colab to develop the skills, gain experiences, make sure that they're career ready, and again, marketable. Kion's single pane of glass will allow faculty to easily see and manage those courses across multiple cloud providers. So one faculty member may teach a course that might be delivered through AWS, another course might be delivered through Google, and another course might be delivered through Azure using those tools. So That's the key value proposition that we see in our partnership with Kion looking forward.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Christy. So as I mentioned, we want to make sure that there was time for discussion. And so really excited to see what else we can obviously do with University of Oregon, but also many others around here as well. So we'll have runners run around with mics, so if you want to raise your hand. To get things started, I think what we were interested in, and I think others in the room, is, again, thinking about cloud in the classroom being a use case that I think there's less of than sort of the other two. Has anybody had any successes, failures, challenges, things that you've tried to do, or obviously questions about anything we presented so far to get started?
I can give you one failure. We developed Azure Labs for minor data sciences, and in the end it turned out that the students were not going to the university, were going to the companies where they did the minor. They did it together with some practice between companies and use all their resources, so that was an interesting one. I would like to you gave a number about the cost, $20, but that is per month, per day, per year, or?
Yeah, the $20, and just to be totally transparent, the actual number that we landed on is $27 per student per term. So that is per course, and our courses are 12 weeks. 10. Okay, I'm looking for help from the audience. Yeah, used to the semesters, 1 quarters here. So, that's right.
Has anyone else tried to do anything with cloud in the classroom yet?
So we actually do something similar where I am. The challenge that we've had, though, is that students, they seem to have a really big learning curve. I don't know if they're just intimidated with going to the cloud for their classwork. We did a biostats class, and we ended up having to do a ton of hand holding to get people logged in, to get them, doing even the most basic command line. You had huge gaps in who you are and who didn't. So we saw head of IT, we ended up doing a lot more support. And we thought it was actually a very easy environment, of course, IT, but it did present challenges. And our faculty also, they weren't willing to step in and do support for their students. Yeah, so it's just a different experience.
Great, but I guess getting through that now, those students going into the workforce can at least have overcome that, right? That's not going to be something that they have their first day of work, hopefully.
We're still doing it.
Good, okay.
It's just, it's not painless. You made it sound so painless.
Yeah.
Definitely not painless.
No, nothing in the
we also, I'm not the technical person, but as far as if you are looking at more specifics about how did we accomplish this, or if you want to learn from our technical folks, see me afterwards, we'd be happy to connect you, and they can kind of go through all the details on all the factors and really how we did kind of create that environment so that to kind of reduce the support and make it easy. So I'm happy to share our code and what we've done and all of our experiences good and bad.
How far are you out from the pilot that you started?
So we are production. We did 3 terms of this. Realistically, we could have just done 2, but just for comfort, we did the 3rd. So we are in production. We were actually in production in pilot, nothing like taking a risk. But I mean, the faculty were really driven to do this because they were experiencing the pain. So they were also willing to give it a go. So we've been in production, and now it's just a matter of growth and for us growing to those higher level courses.
And so what percentage, that is my next question, what percentage of the courses are actually utilizing this?
So these are our foundational courses, 101 and 102 right now, and more will be onboarded in time. So we're just working with them closely around what their timing is and which classes are next.
So my question may venture into the technical, but I'll be kind.
Please.
So in terms of the use of Kion, is its value more in the repeatable automation of the course environment setup, or the ability to track and monitor the spend and keep your control around that? And feel free to say both, but I'm curious.
Yeah, definitely both. And I think probably how we intend to use Kion for some of the higher level courses will be different than how we're using it for our entry level courses. So I will caveat with that. But I think one of the really powerful pieces was working closely with the faculty, and again, we could all see the dashboards and we could have conversations around that. And part of it was that educational sort of buy-in and understanding that, you know, we're not in those faculty meetings when we're talking about what do these next classes look like, what are the next courses that we're providing, and so now we've educated faculty so they understand with regard to these cloud resources. They have a better idea of when, you know, when their dean is saying this is a direction that we're driving to, they now understand some of those technical pieces, and they can either kind of figure out what those impacts are going to be, or they know enough to raise their hand and come back to us and say, we're having conversations about the curriculum going in this way, or we're anticipating this many more students, and bring us into a conversation, because we are not going to be at those faculty meetings. And so now what we've done is, you know, created a mechanism so that we can help and enable them.
I have a question for Randy this time. So, in addition to just, you know, using Terraform or whatever to spin up templated accounts, can Kion, it's one of the challenges with all of the cloud providers and setting up teaching and learning environments is abuse, intentional or otherwise. Can Kion, in the account provisioning, restrict what services are available to the accounts that are spun up?
Yeah, so that's right in, you know, when we talk about guardrails, we talk about governance, like it is taking, again, the data center that you're giving to, you know, student or faculty or whoever you give it to, and beginning to limit it and say, you know, you can only use this rack, and you can only use these, you know, these are used if we're using that analogy more. So yeah, whether it's across AWS, Azure, Google, that's the idea within there, is that you make a safe landing zone essentially that says, you know, you can only use these services, you can only spin up instances that cost up to this amount of money. You can even share out like reference architecture or service catalogs so that it's sort of one click to get those learning environments up. And then similarly, right, you can also then do the opposite and sort of break them down, right, run scripts and nuke everything inside there, restart it, and give new accounts to these students for new semesters.
So this is a slightly more general question. If I'm not mistaken, OU has an interest in developing support for open science, open research, student engagement with open scholarly infrastructures. And I'm wondering if you see this ability to scale capacity as fitting into those kinds of institutional interests alongside the interest in growing the research activity around data science. Is there something, just to be clear, it's not a question about commercial cloud versus open data clouds, just in terms of creating kind of institutional infrastructure that enables a wholesale move of the academic enterprise toward greater engagement with large-scale research infrastructures and normalizing that kind of student engagement. Is that part of the picture here, or is this more specifically focused on the data science capacity?
So I will say, great question. Not yet. That we, as part of IT, we're working really closely with both our Office of Research and Innovation as well as our libraries. And so we've, over this past year, really kind of knitted together this, I'll just say sort of organic kind of relationship around how do we support, really how do we support the campus around data services and what are those needs coming up. And so we continue to meet, and we're kind of working to maybe more formalize that in this next year. What you're mentioning, those are all kind of things that we've talked about and that we're aware of. We don't currently have a plan for that right now, but I love how you're thinking, and that's a really important thing to keep an eye on going forward. And if you've got insights that you would love to share with us, I would love to hear them.
Perfect. Well, we are right here at time. First, thanks everybody for coming. Obviously, Chris and I will hang out a little bit for some questions here. Feel free to reach out to either of us directly. Also, if you want to hear more about Kion or see a demo or anything like that, we're at booth 1140, and we are donating $5 to the food bank for every scan, so thank you for that as well. Enjoy the rest of your conference.